Arizona State is a volleyball school. Since arriving in Tempe, head coach JJ Van Niel has built the Sun Devils into a volleyball juggernaut. Now, heading into this season's home stretch, which features a huge home matchup against the Arizona Wildcats on Thursday night, the Sun Devils are in the top 10, eyeing a second consecutive Big 12 championship and more. And so, on this episode, JJ and I discuss the building of a powerhouse, the keys to sustained success, and his bevy of card tricks. So let's get to it. Here's my conversation with JJ Van Niel. All right, coach, before we dive in about your team and some big matches up ahead, I got to know, how did Kenny Dillingham do that trick that you guys put on the other day? It blew my mind, and I went back and I saw some of your stuff. Those card tricks are just kind of just jaw dropping.
Well, we're not supposed to tell people how we do them, so I won't reveal Kenny's trick. Yeah, they're fun. And last year we were at a fundraiser event, and I had my cards with me, and I was doing some tricks on some of the donors. And Kenny's like, "Oh, I know some tricks too," and so he showed us some, and I was like, "All right, cool." So when Kimber and my kind of social media staff was like, "Hey, let's do a card tricks with JJ," I thought, okay, great, but we also got to get Kenny on. And fortunately, Kenny's great. I mean, he's in season, and football coaches are crazy busy, but really, really special for him to come on and do that. And really, it was really fun. So.
And then, of course, you are certainly very skilled in your own right. How did you kind of get into the card tricks and kind of taking an interest in that?
Yeah, last December, after we were no longer playing, I wasn't sleeping very well and was doom scrolling. And I've since deleted Instagram from all my phones because I'm like, I need to stop doing that. But the one thing that came out of it was I randomly just saw this like self-working card trick. And I looked at it, I liked the effect, and I hadn't really done stuff like this before. And then I learned how to do it, and it's really easy. And we were at a team retreat in January, and I had a couple that were just easy self-working tricks. And I did those, and the team got a kick out of them. So I'm like, oh, let me try to like learn actual real ones. And so now I've gone down this rabbit hole, and if I showed you my desk, I have like 40 decks of cards on here. It's a little messy if I'm being honest, but lots and lots of decks of cards everywhere. So yeah.
What's the favorite trick so far?
I have one that I have a couple that I think are fan favorites. One where a card that's chosen, I have a group of people and choose a card, and someone picks a number, and someone chooses a card, and then I end up finding the signed card in a tea bag that I pull out of my tea. I'll release that soon. And there's another one where I have two people sign a card, and then they fuse. It gets fused together, and both of their signed cards become one card with their signature on both sides. And that one's pretty. Those two took a while to learn, and they're pretty fun. So.
Well, certainly be looking forward to that. But certainly your team on the court has been putting forth a magical year in their own right, and a big win on BYU last Friday. What were some of your kind of key takeaways and getting yet another key conference win?
I think our team's been pretty resilient. I'd like if we played more consistently the whole match. It's hard to do in volleyball because there's so many plays, and I mean, there's so many rallies in volleyball. It's constant, and I think my team's done a nice job of, even when they kind of, like in BYU, we should have won the first set, and they got a big run and came back. And I think, sometimes teams can just fold and lose their confidence, and our team just was like, whatever, we lost first set, let's go back. And I think the second set went over score, which means it goes past 25 because you got to win by 2 in volleyball. And they battled back, and we won that, and then we kind of just really kept our foot on the gas. So this team's been an interesting one because I think they've been very resilient all season. They're really fighting when their backs are against the wall, or when we're not even playing like that well, like even we had that loss against Iowa State, which, trust me, I remember losses more than any wins. But that was a tough match because it's a very difficult environment to play there, and we still took them to 5, and probably had no right to even take them to 5. We were off a little bit, and they were playing really well. They were doing some really good things against us, and I was really proud of my team because in that fourth set, they battled back and pushed it to a set 5. And we didn't come out ahead, but I still took away from that. Like, hey, it's good. There's some things we got to get better at, but also we continued to fight and didn't give up. And that's been kind of the thread with this team this whole year. It's been pretty fun.
Yeah, that resiliency has been such a key trait in the program, and winning some big time matches and making some comebacks along the way. Where do where do you think this resiliency comes from in terms of just being able to do that kind of week in week out?
I think some comes from our kind of on-court leaders and off-court leaders. I think some comes from our practice gym. I think our staff does a pretty good job of trying to like constantly make them uncomfortable and put them in situations that are tough. So I know they've made comments of like, yeah, like when we get out there, like we already feel like we've done this before. And I mean, that's what you're trying to do, like as a coach, is trying to prepare them for the match. And so yeah, but I just think we have some really competitive kids on our team. Bailey's really come into her own this year and been a pretty special leader. And kids like Colby and Noemie, who transferred but came from a pretty successful program, and we're kind of used to the bright lights. And I think when you have people like that on the court that are used to this, like it's just, hey, this is just routine. This is what we do. And we set our preseason schedule, our non-conference schedule, to be pretty tough this year. And we opened playing Pitt and Penn State on the road in a hostile environment. We played Texas at home in a hostile environment. And all through our preseason, we had a ton of injuries, a ton of what I call character building. And I think that helped with the kind of resilience, because even against Texas, Noemie was out. We were down to one middle, so we couldn't even field like a full team. We still battled pretty well. We lost, but given what we had to throw on the court at the last minute, it was a good battle. And I think those are the kind of things that just reinforce you and hopefully get you ready. And, we'll continue to hopefully thrive in those situations.
When you go back to the off season, you also have some key returners, but also some new faces coming into the program as well. How did the kind of the veterans on this roster help to get those newcomers kind of acclimated to the standard of this program after a very successful couple of years, and kind of obviously start the year off on a good note with that big win over Penn State?
Yeah, I think we've had a special program here since I walked in the door. I think all the teams that I've gotten to coach so far have really taken a lot of pride in our culture. And when I got here, we only had 9 kids on the roster, and a typical roster is 16 to 18. And I only had 5 scholarship kids in a typical. Back then, it was 12 scholarships in volleyball. So lots of holes to fill. But I think that first group's just set the tone of, hey, this is what we do, this is how we do it. And then even when the transfers are coming in, they've really, all the people that have been here have continued to like teach and mentor all the new kids and help them understand this is what we do, how we do it, this is how our culture works, these are the standards. Right now I have someone like Estella, who has been with us since I got here my first season. Bryn, she's been here. Jillian Neal, those 3, like, even though they might not have as big a role on the court, like off the court, they're doing really good stuff and they're helping with our culture. And then all the kids that were with us last year kind of understand what we do and how we do it. So all the new kids that come in, we're able to kind of get them, ingrained in what we do fairly quickly. And then I think it's also a testament to the kids that transfer in. They're open, willing, want to learn, want to get better. And, we've been really fortunate with a lot of the kids that have come through our doors here.
You mentioned Bailey Miller, as one of the veteran leaders in the helping kind of provide that culture and that's that foundation of resiliency, but also an impact player in her own right. How important has her play and presence off the court as well shaped the success of this 2025 team?
Yeah, I purposely didn't mention Bailey in that group because I think Bailey's a very special story. She transferred here spring of 24. And wasn't able to crack the starting lineup as much as she wanted last year. And we tried to move her to play a different position, and she was kind of back and forth with someone else in that position, and neither of them could really get settled in. But Bailey's one of the players that I've probably been more proud of in my whole career that I've gotten to coach, and for what she's done, because she wasn't happy with her role last year. Obviously, when you're not playing, you're not happy with your role. But she was still a great teammate, still into our culture, doing everything. But she, from the end of last season on, was just an absolute warrior in the weight room. And if you saw her lift, you'd be like, yeah, this kid gets after it. She put like 5 inches onto her vertical. All the little things in volleyball that we've asked her to try to get better at and change, like all spring she was working at and be really intentional with what she does. And to see her, what she's done this year, becoming a true 6 rotation outside, doesn't come off the court. Her passing has improved dramatically compared to what it was when she was at West Virginia. Her attacking is like next level. But I think when you put in all that work off the court and the team sees it, I mean, that's like you're setting the standard, right? You know, you end up being one of the best players, a leader on the court, a leader off the court. She's on our leadership group off the court as well, and she was voted on that. Like that alone is setting the standard of what we do. I mean, between our break, and volleyball is interesting because, you know, when you're done in December, you don't see the kids again until, you know, early January. And then when we're done at the end of April, we don't see them, like as coaches, we can't work with them until August. So for literally May, June, and July, you're like, I hope they work out. I hope they go to open gyms. And you have no way to know. But I think Bailey took a total of 2 weeks off from December through the start of our August season. 2 weeks, and that whole group is all she took off. And it shows with, you know, what she's been able to do on the court, you know, and she's continuing to get better. And it's really cool to see how much she's improved and what a leader she's been on and off the court, you know.
Of course, as one of those key veterans, but then on the flip side there, one of the key newcomers, Noemie Glover, you know, continues to rake in, you know, Player of the Week awards. I believe recently a semifinals for the National Player of the Year. What kind of impact has Noemie had on this program, and you know, obviously how she's fit in pretty well so far?
Yeah, Noemie's been a really, really cool story too, because you know, she played at Oregon, but not in a similar role, and like her numbers weren't nearly as good as they've been this year. And I think it's a testament to, you know, not just kind of what we're doing in our system, but also to her and her hard work. She transferred late in spring, so we didn't get to spend very much time with her in spring because they were on a quarter system. So we really only got a couple weeks. So really the most amount of work we've been able to do with her since August. But she's another one who has she's blessed with physical gifts that, you know, a lot of people are not blessed. If you see her jump, she's very high up there. And, you know, she's got a heavy arm, all these things, but she's worked really, really hard at kind of improving on the few things that we've asked her to improve at. And I think, again, those are things that, like, when your team is watching you do that and you're already getting all these accolades, that helps set the standard in the gym. You know, like, I don't have to yell at them about getting better at doing this because, like, they're seeing these key players already doing that. And, you know, she's really worked really hard at improving in some key areas, and it's showing on the court. You know, she's doing really special things, and she's continuing to improve, and I'm really excited, not just for this season, what she can do, but even in her future here.
Of course, since you got here in Tempe, the program has been on a meteoric rise, and you know, tons of wins. You know, consistently a top 10 nationally ranked team. What have been some of the toughest challenges in maintaining success? Not just, you know, kind of getting to the top of the mountain, but also, you know, kind of staying up and continuing that ascent.
You know, I think roster turnover is always tough to manage. Like, we graduated the whole starting lineup last year, so 8 kids left. So we really had no idea what we'd have this year, you know, and you're relying on some portal kids and some of the returners to see, you know, someone like Bailey, who's, you know, completely outperformed any expectation that I think we would have thought, you know. And that may sound bad, but it's just where she was at the end of November last year compared to where she's at now. It's truly meteoric, you know, using your word. So I think one is you got to continue to have the right standards that, you know, you're providing in the gym and kind of what you do and how you do it. And I think my staff does a really good job of that. I think you have to be really good in the culture piece, and I think we've done a really nice job, and our players have done a really nice job of that, because when you're bringing in new kids, like, you got to rope them in. I mean, you never know when you get a transfer, like, what that'll be like. But really, I just think it's about, you know, continuing to have this kind of, I mean, it sounds corny, you know, the Kaizen principle that, you know, all the Japanese car makers used to do long ago was just, hey, 1% better every day, which is not even realistic. You can't get 1% better at anything every day. Maybe when you're brand new, but it's got to be a constant push, not just from your staff, but your players got to want to do it. And I think that's what our gym looks like. And I think when you have that, the sky's the limit, and you're just trying to get better and develop, because I think you got to be able to develop on the court and off the court. And if you do that, good things will happen.
I know you're laser focused on kind of the home stretch of the season and the postseason ahead, but taking a step back and kind of looking at the macro view, over the course of your tenure here, where do you feel that the program, kind of the broad sense, has what areas it's improved the most?
I think attendance has been awesome, and we're still trying to grow that. I know when I got here, my first press conference, I was like, hey, Tempe is an awesome place. We have a large student body population. We're in the 5th largest metro in the country. We should be able to get people in the stands. And that's great, not just for our players on the court, because we thrive in big environments, but also for recruiting, And so I think seeing the support that we've had with our community, we've pretty much broken just about every attendance record, starting my first season here, which has been really special. So I think that's huge. I think fans don't realize what a difference they make when they show up in our matches. Our team thrives on these big environments. I can't wait for tomorrow night, because I think we're going to break the record for attendance at a volleyball match in the history. So that's a big deal. I think our success has really helped us in recruiting, not just the portal stuff, but also we got to recruit undergrads. Like today we signed our 2027 class, and each year since I've been here, we've been in the mix with, the quote unquote top ranked kids. More of them we're in the mix on, and we're getting, really nice young recruits coming. And I think that's really special. So that's been really fun to see, because obviously when I got here, I had no history as a head coach. And, when I called kids in the portal that first season, no one really returned my call. And even the undergrads, it was really hard to get phone calls with people. And, that's flipped quite a bit because of our success, which has been really fun. And I also think we've got an unbelievable amount of support from the athletics department, from President Crow, Dr. Run. Like those guys are really helping our volleyball program out with resources and things to help us become the successful program we think we can be.
It kind of leads perfectly into my next question. Just as the sport continues to grow, and ASU's pro continues to have the high level success that it's been having over the last few years. How do you feel that the athletic department and AD Graham Rossini are continuing to resource you and your staff and continue to build towards a level of success that you guys want?
Yeah, Graham's been really special to me as an AD. I did a press conference this week, and I think someone asked, what was something that stood out in your recruiting process? And my story was, I remember getting off the plane and Graham's waiting for me. Nowadays it's like you fly in and people just like, oh, Uber, or maybe they pick you up at the curb. But he's sitting there waiting for me, shakes my hand. He's already starting to talk to me. And those are little details. And I'm a little details kind of guy. And that's still like absolutely stands out to me of like, okay, this guy is special. And so when he was up for AD, I was very excited. And, his wife played volleyball here. He pretty much is at every match. Like the only matches he ever misses is if he's out of town. And again, you don't necessarily see that in volleyball very often. And so I think that tells a lot. People can talk the talk, but it's what do your actions show? And when Graham's coming down after a match and you just watch the match, like that's a big deal. Of course they go to football games, they go to the men's basketball games, but it shows. And they've been unbelievable. I signed a new 5-year contract during the spring, and I wouldn't have signed it if I didn't feel like ASU as a university and our athletic department wasn't just fired up and all in on trying to get our programs to kind of that level that we want to get it to.
You mentioned it a few moments ago. This Thursday, the Wildcats coming up to Tempe for obviously another crucial Big 12 matchup. What kind of atmosphere are you expecting? I know there's a lot of excitement, of course, just with any rivalry game in any sport, but especially with the success and the trajectory that your program is on, it seems like tomorrow night could be pretty special.
Yeah, they're projecting quite a big crowd, and I encourage everyone to come out. Arizona's busing students up, so I think it'll be a fun crowd. We've had a couple matches this year where the opposing team has brought in pretty like our BYU match. There was a huge section of BYU people, and then against Grand Canyon, they bust a whole bunch of students over, and those are really fun because you kind of have them trying to do chants, and then all the ASU people doing chants. Like at the end of the match against BYU, there was a BYU and a ASU chant war, which was really cool. And normally I'm pretty oblivious to those, so if it's loud enough for me to notice, it's really fun. So I'm really expecting a really fun match. It's a rivalry. They're playing really well right now. They're fighting to make sure they get a good seed in the tournament. So I'm really excited for the environment. I think it'll be a really fun one.
Of course, just a handful of matches left before the postseason begins. What are some of the things that you personally want to see from your team to kind of feel confident about the direction you guys are heading when the postseason begins?
Yeah, there's a few areas we're trying to clean up, which if I talked about, most people wouldn't understand because they're more volleyball related. But we have a few things we got to clean up. I think one of them is really being super consistent as far as our execution. We've had a few matches where I'm not going to say we lose focus, but you snap your fingers and all of a sudden you had a big lead and now it's gone, or you have a big lead and you don't keep it. We're really trying to create some situations in our practice to really keep the foot on the gas for long periods of time. And then, there's some transition offense, I think, is still continuing to be something we want to really thrive on. And we've got a really fun defensive team, block a lot of balls. And I think those are a few of the things that we're really looking to continue to improve on and get ready for the off season. You got to grind in the playoffs. Playoffs are tough. You don't know what your matchup you're going to get, and you really got to be mentally there the whole 2.5 hours.
It's one of the best stories across all of Sun Devil athletics last year when, of course, you guys captured the conference championship in year one in the conference. And what it mean for you and for the program to kind of go back to back?
Obviously, huge deal for the program, for the athletic department. As Kimber would tell you, I don't look ahead. Most of the season, I don't even know what we're ranked or where we are in the standings, but I hear enough chatter. I know we're up there. I think, and we have a good shot as long as we can take care of business. And it's really special. I mean, it's a testament to the kids. I don't think anyone thought we'd do this year, and so it's nice to see, the focus that we've had and the players that have been able to contribute really across our roster. We've had really special moments from most of the kids on our roster, which is really fun to see. So really special for the program, really special for athletic department. But I'm most concerned with playing Arizona tomorrow night.
Well, Coach, that's all I got for you. Thank you so much for taking the time. Again, I know you're very busy and got some big things ahead, so certainly appreciative, and good luck down the stretch.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate having me on this. Go Devils.
I'd like to thank JJ for taking the time to talk with me for this episode. I'd also like to thank Kimberly Hayner of ASU Media Relations. Make sure you are subscribed to Speak of the Devils on the podcast platform of your choice for more great sit-down series episodes all season long. And make sure to follow me on all things social media at bdenny29.